Britain's Royal Bank of Scotland set for an $800 million fine for rigging key global lending rates. But hang on, the British taxpayers own it, so are they paying for the bank's misdeeds? Hello everybody, I'm Aaron Hasselhoff. Welcome to the program. Of course, a quick look at all the latest in the world of business and money. We'll talk about the little switcheroo for Zynga very shortly, but first, another big bank, another big fine. In fact, Britain's Royal Bank of Scotland will today announce a LIBOR settlement with UK and US regulators that could cost the part-nationalised bank close to $800 million. Of course, all of this follows the news that the boss of the bank's investment arm, John Hurricane, will step down for his part in the scandal. LIBOR, let me explain it. Don't be put off by it. LIBOR, or the London Interbank Offered Rate, it estimates the rates at which banks lend money to each other. And of course, that affects huge numbers of contracts around the world. I mean, it can determine the interest rate used for mortgages and for loans, both consumer and businesses. Now, last year, it emerged that hundreds of bankers had purposely manipulated that rate. They jigged that rate to boost their own trading positions or at least make their bank more secure. So far, we know that Barclays has already paid out $450 million in fines, and the Swiss bank, UBS, boy, look at that one. It copped a whopper $1.5 billion fine. Well, let's get more. Of course, Chris Roebuck is visiting professor at Cass Business School and joins us. Chris, always good to have you in the studio. So let's start with that. I think, 82% this bank, RBS, owned by us, the taxpayer. So when it gets a big slap on the wrist, it's a big one, expected to be $800 million. Who pays for that? I mean, is the taxpayer paying for that?
The taxpayer isn't directly involved in the sense of it being owned by the government, but they're shareholders like anybody else. So therefore, there may be potentially less profit, and therefore they get less return on the shares. But the point about it is that actually, if you look at what happens in any country around the world, there are often government organisations that breach regulations that are actually part of government. So actually, government ends up paying a fine to another part of government. At least we haven't got to that slightly ridiculous situation here.
We were just saying that the boss of the investment arm, he's out. John Hurricane, but others will question this. They'll say this was white-collar crime, and people are asking the questions: will anybody be sent to jail? Because some are saying that these banks, basically, they stole from British savers and from British borrowers as if they walked into the house and stole their own cash.
Yeah, that comment's been made, but the issue is, in terms of what they did, there was no significant personal gain for many of them. So it's not that in terms of the legal sense they can be convicted of fraud. All they have done is broken the banking regulations. The fact that the downside effect is that it's cost small companies more and people more, it is an unfortunate impact of what actually happened. I think one of the interesting things in this RBS case, though, is that we're breaking new ground here, because what's happening is that there is a suggestion that the bonus pool will be reduced to actually pay the fine. So what that means is, from the employee's perspective, there are people in RBS who will get less money than they would have done, even if they weren't in the bank at the time, and even if they had nothing to do with it. And let's not forget, we're talking about maybe 1%, 2%, 3% of the total employee population who did something wrong. The other 97% have never done anything wrong in their careers and are now suffering for it.
And I guess just briefly, the danger of that, if the bonus pool shrinks for these bankers who have done no wrong, that you've got banks around the world saying, hang on, come over here, we'll give you X, Y, and Z.
Absolutely. We have seen examples of Asian banks or American banks, particularly in Hong Kong, who have the ability to offer cash bonuses to people who work for British or European banks that they can't offer, and attempting to poach them. And I think if this continues, we're going to be in a world where we have one class of banks, American and Asian, and another class of banks who are restricted in the way they can do business, British and European banks.
OK, we'll keep our eyes on that. Chris, always a pleasure. Great stuff. Thanks. Chris Roebuck joining us there.